So I think that we have some major misconceptions about singleness, specifically in the church. It's something that we have, in a lot of ways, allowed culture to really influence the way that we think about it and the way that we talk about it. We use verses like be fruitful and multiply to act like it means like, oh, that means like everyone has to get married and have kids, when that's not what that means. We even like, maybe if a single person comes to church or our Bible study or something, we're like right away like trying to get them in a relationship with somebody. And a lot of times it's not always super malicious, but I think that a lot of times it's something where we are allowing, again, just culture to kind of set the stage, and that is that we feel like marriage is like the highest thing you can reach, and that like singleness is down here. But what I want to talk about tonight is kind of flipping that on its head. And I know that there's some things like that we do, but then I also know that there's just real struggles with singleness. Like I know that there's just like real life like loneliness that comes with it. Real life anxiety that comes with it. I know a lot of times when I was single, I'd be embarrassed because I just dated another person again and it didn't work again and I'm single again. And so it just was like a hard topic to talk about. But I want to start to kind of try and break some of those things down tonight and start to give us a little bit more of like, what does God think about singleness? And how can that start to help us when we're in that time in our lives? So this is the one truth I want to start off with tonight. Singleness is not preliminary. Preliminary is basically that it's something that comes before something that's greater or fuller. That is not what singleness is. Singleness is just as important as being married, and God sees it the exact same. So if you are single and you feel like, oh, well, I can't really be used by God yet, or, oh, well, I know that there's maybe some things that I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm just going to wait until I get a spouse first, and then I'll start jumping into those things. Or even sometimes people say like, oh, well, I'm going to work on my character, but then maybe if I work on my character, then God will give me a spouse, or God will give me someone to be with. These are all things that happen when we start to think of singleness as being something that's preliminary. It's like a preseason almost. You're just like kind of getting your workouts in and like getting stuff ready so that you can get to like the real season. But the truth is, singleness is actually very purposeful. And there's a lot of purpose in it. There's a lot of things that you can do in this season of life that you cannot do in any other season of life. And it's things that are important to God and important to His kingdom. So I want to start thinking about it like this. And I know this because some of the most important ministers in the Bible were single. John the Baptist, who prepared the way for Jesus, was single. Paul, who wrote some of just so much of the New Testament and all of those letters, he was single. And obviously Jesus was single. Now, one of the things that he did that I think of when I think of like, what was like a sign that like Jesus was okay with his singleness and he was like secure in that. And I think about the time when he went to a wedding, and then at this wedding they run out of wine and he turns water to wine. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So I know a lot of us, we would have been in that scenario, single at a wedding, and we'd have just been like sitting in the corner somewhere like, I don't even really want to be here. Like they're getting what I wanted. Or maybe even you'd be thinking like, man, like maybe if they just run out of wine, we'll just go home. Like I don't want to be here anymore. Like we would just be so much like in our own minds about it that it's just, we would not have been thinking about what we could do to serve somebody else. But because he was secure in his singleness, he was secure in the fact that he was there for a purpose, he was able to step into something that maybe a lot of us would have missed. And he was able to step in and be a blessing to other people, even though they may have had something that he may have wanted. So I want us to start seeing it as singleness as something that's being extremely purposeful. And I want to start to break down a passage of scripture here. It's going to be, let me open it up here. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We're starting in verse 29. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, starting in verse 29. Paul says this. He says, "But let me say this, dear brothers and sisters. The time that remains is very short. So from now on, those with wives should not focus only on their marriage. So here's something for the married people too. Those who weep or who rejoice or who buy things should not be absorbed by their weeping or their joy or their possessions. Those who use the things of the world should not become attached to them. For this world as we know it will soon pass away. I want you to be free from the concerns of this life. An unmarried man can spend his time doing the Lord's work and thinking how to please him. But a married man has to think about his earthly responsibilities and how to please his wife. His interests are divided. In the same way, a woman who is no longer married or has never been married can be devoted to the Lord and holy in body and spirit. But a married woman has to think about her earthly responsibilities and how to please her husband. I am saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you. I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as few distractions as possible. So this whole passage, I think, could just kind of be boiled down into one phrase that Jesus used in Matthew 6. He said, seek first the kingdom. That's basically what Paul is saying here. There's all these different things that we want, possessions, or maybe you want to be married, or maybe you want to be able to travel, or there's all these different things that we start to hang on to. And what he's saying is those things aren't bad in themselves, but you cannot become so absorbed with them that you start to become distracted on what God's actually wanting to use you to do. I know a lot of times, and I'm saying even with me in my own personal life before I got married, it was something that I would become so absorbed with that I just couldn't think about anything else than being in a relationship with somebody. And I know that one of the things that I really struggled with when I was going through and dating and trying to figure out who I was going to be with, the very first person I was with was in college. And we were together for a while. She lived out of state. She went home for the summer. And when she came back, she was like, wow, the summer was like actually really nice. And I think I like had a better time during the summer while you weren't here than when I'm here with you. Oh, okay. And she just like said that, was like ready to just keep moving, like nothing. And I was like, oh, all right, okay. So that obviously didn't work out. And then I go to the next person and I get in a relationship with them. We were in a relationship for a long time. And she went on a trip with some friends. She's on this trip, LA or California, so close enough. She goes and she texts me and she says, hey, while I've been gone, I actually think I'm just kind of having a better time apart. And so I think, so it happens again, okay? So then obviously that didn't work out. So then I'm like, okay. So then I go and I start dating another person. We're together for like almost a year. I get COVID. I'm isolated in my house by myself. She texts me and goes, yeah, so like while we've been apart and the same thing happened again. So I dated 3 different people and the same thing happened all 3 times. I wish I was making it up and I'm not. But so what did that start to do? What did that start to do to my mindset? I started to think like, okay, what is the common thread? And it's that all of them were realizing, man, when we're like apart, I'm feeling better. And so what I ended up realizing was when I was single, my main thing that I was absorbed with was that I did not want to be lonely. And I was so overbearing, texting them all the time, talking all the time. I wanted to hang out every single day, and I was asking where they were or what they were doing, that when they were able to just like get some space and breathe for a second, they were just like, whew, like they just didn't have that weight on them anymore. So that what I've had to realize in marriage now is not that now all of a sudden I'm just like all healed because I am married and I'm not lonely anymore. There's still loneliness that can happen in marriage. But what I realized is the only way that this can actually work and this relationship can work is if I'm not absorbed with it. I'm not obsessed with it. So if you're single right now and you want to be in a relationship, my advice to you would be, it's not wrong for you to want to be in a relationship. You've got to put it in the right perspective. You've got to start to seek the kingdom first. So we say, okay, how do we start to seek the kingdom? The first thing is we have to start to fix our agenda. And I was watching this show. I don't know if any of y'all have seen it. Have any of y'all seen Secret Millionaire on Netflix yet? It's kind of like a little bit newer. Okay. Well, I won't ruin it if you want to watch it. It's pretty good. But it's a reality TV show. There's a bunch of people that are in this house, and there's one person that secretly has $1 million. And everyone's trying to figure out who has it. But then the person who has the money has these like secret agendas that they have to try to get done and like not get caught. So maybe it's like one of them is like they have to try to get someone to scream. Or they have to like try and mix like song lyrics into different things. Like they would have these agendas every day. And eventually you start to like kind of see that person's been acting weird, like I think they have the money. But they called it an agenda. And I was like, that's interesting. So then I started to think like, when I was single, this was my issue a lot of times. I was going to God, asking him to help me grow and to help me start to become the person he wanted me to be. But I had this secret agenda that I was like, well, maybe if I become who God wants me to be, he'll give me a wife. So I was going to him and I was acting like it was just normal and I just want a relationship with you. But really, I had this secret agenda of like, maybe if I do the right thing, you'll give me what I want. That it didn't work. It didn't work out that way. I promise. That's not why I got married. It was once I started to realize my mistakes in that. But I mean, what I want y'all to start to think about is what are the agendas that you're taking to God that we could start to fix, so that we could start to have a genuine, real relationship with God. Not taking our own agendas to him, but going to him and saying, what do you want for me? And how can I just learn to be content with where I am today? And then the second thing would be fix your thoughts. Again, I think back to the times when I was single. It dominated my thoughts. It led to me being depressed a lot of times because I would just sit around and think about it. Or I think I don't even want to go and hang out with friends because they're going to ask me if I've met anyone yet and I haven't. And it would just dominate my thoughts. We have to start to fix our thoughts. And Paul has a really good verse on this. He says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy that was awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. And now he is seated at the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all of the hostility that he endured for sinful people, and then you won't become weary and give up. So again, when we think like, man, and I want you to know, I'm not downplaying how hard it can be sometimes to be single and lonely, and there's just things that come with it that are just hard. So I'm not downplaying that. But when those things come and when those thoughts start to come, if we could start to fix our agenda and the way that we're talking to God, if we could start to fix our thoughts on him, this verse is so important. Because what it says at the end is that think of all of the hostility that he endured. So there were people that when he was alive were saying all kinds of crazy things to him. They're ended up torturing him, killing him, right? But then sometimes I would think the worst thing that happened to Jesus was that he was crucified and that he was tortured. That was the hard thing. And that's what, when Jesus was praying in the garden saying please, do I not have to do this? That he was thinking about getting crucified. But really he was looking even past that. And what he knew was, what I really don't want to go through is I don't want to be alone. Because he knew in order to take on the sins of the world, God would have to turn his back on him. The Father and the Son, for the first time ever, would be separated. He would feel what it felt like to be alone for the first time. So when we think about this, we think man, we start to get angry at God, and why would you let this happen to me? And why would you allow me to be so lonely? This is what can start to ground us here. Is that he was willing to endure an immense amount of loneliness that he had never experienced for eternity. That's a hard thing to even wrap our minds around. in order for us to be able to be saved. If we can build our lives on this and on the sacrifice that he made for us, then we can go, you know what? I know I'm not in a preseason anymore. I'm not going to sit around and wait anymore. God has a purpose for what he wants to do in my life, so I'm not going to go to him with my own agenda anymore. I'm going to fix my thoughts on who he says that I am and what he wants for me, and I'm going to step into that right away. So as we wrap up, I just want to start to think about that and think, okay, in the times when I'm lonely, can I remember the loneliness that Jesus endured in order to cleanse and keep me? And start to allow that truth to help you get into the mindset where when you see the purpose and what God has for you today, not thinking towards the future, what he has for you today, then we won't forget who he is. We'll remember that time is short, and then we'll know that no matter what and not for any reason will we ever take our eyes off of Jesus and the purpose that he has for us.